This was the national landscape in which the METCO program was birthed, a nation ripe with racism, full of misguided intention, and ready to burst. In the early 60s, Boston parents were becoming increasingly frustrated with inadequate educational facilities in comparison to their white counterparts across the city.
I had 42 students, 36 seats. We didn't have new crayons. We had a box of old nubbly crayons. Pencils had to be collected at the end of the day so you would have enough for the children for the next day.
There was no encouragement from anybody. I call it complete official neglect.
Many of the Negro parents believe that a predominantly Negro school is inferior per se, but we here in Boston do not believe that premise.
The Racial Imbalance Act of 1965 made the segregation of public schools illegal in Massachusetts, but Boston's all-white school committee refused to comply.
If the implementation of the racial imbalance law is allowed to happen in the city of Boston, then we should be on the streets marching to save our city.
Black Boston parents led protests, rallies, and direct confrontations with officials. They organized boycotts, community schools, and even their own busing program within the city called Operation Exodus. They were determined to get their children the educational opportunities they deserved. Meanwhile, some families in the suburbs began to see the need for their children to integrate with children of color.
Some of these towns recognize the racial disparities in the country, so do open their schools up to students from Roxbury, Dorchester, students of color. So this is really the beginning of METCO.
METCO has grown to become the nation's largest voluntary school desegregation program. Each year, the state of Massachusetts provides the funding for about 3,000 Boston students from racially segregated neighborhoods to enroll in suburban schools that are racially isolated.
METCO is basically a way to prepare kids for the real world. And the real world isn't all white and all black and all male or all female. It's everybody working together to make this world a better place when you leave it.
When people are educated in the same classroom, they break down their own stereotypes of one another and then give each other an opportunity. And that is what the METCO program does. It builds friendships and it actually breaks down racial barriers.
This is a wonderful opportunity for our children to experience the diversity that exists in the world. Now, you can give lectures and read books about diversity, but it's much better if you actually experience it.
Whenever you can have diversity of thought in your community, that's important.
When Boston resident students have the opportunity to integrate a school district seemingly devoid of color, it does bring up other issues. METCO students often find themselves in classes where they are the only students of color.
There's a certain level of trust that parents have to have with a district, with METCO staff, with educators, to put your 5-year-old on a school bus in the morning to leave their community to go be educated by folks that they're going to get to know, but maybe not folks that are their neighbors that would have been at their neighborhood school.
The challenge is that I don't often get to see people that look like me around here. And for better or for worse, that affects how I function. I've learned a lot of patience. I also learned how to just navigate through the world, which is a really good skill to have, especially going forward in the future.
Things have happened to students that involve race and that involve who one is or what they look like. I think what I'm proud of is that we're willing to say, wait a minute, let's pause, let's reflect on what happened and learn from it and grow from it.
We are part of a grassroots movement then and a grassroots movement now, but now the grassroots movement is about changing people's minds and mentalities.
I want our students to feel that they've learned about different people, they've learned deeply about themselves, and they now believe that they can impact the world in a very positive way.
And those are the ambassadors who will make America what it can be.